was.
I didn't. Hello and welcome to For Fantasy Sake, the Quad City's first and only fantasy football show. I am your confused host, Dougie Fresh. The guy on the DJ's on the left of me and Chris is on the right of me. Those are the other guys that are on the show.
To the left of me, right here I am.
Yep.
We're using StreamYard this week for the first time as opposed to our old streaming platform. Well, much better. We didn't take the time to test it like I told somebody to do. So we're doing this on the fly, and I'm very confused. But we seem to be live, and that's all that matters. So welcome in. We have got ourselves, as usual in 2020, a weird and wacky show. All right. So we've had
that was standard in 2019 as well, I'm sure.
Well, the show was weird and wacky. Now the subject material is weird and wacky.
Gotcha.
All right. So we had our first coaching domino fall this week in Bill O'Brien. He is now gone. The team is going to be run by one Romeo Crennel, so that'll go great.
Did you see when their game kicks off? He'll be the oldest coach in NFL history, oldest head coach.
I believe that. But, he's got the Belichick legacy, so everybody thinks that he's great. All right. So Chris wanted to know who gets fired next.
Great question, Chris. Probably Adam Gase would be my guess.
I don't know how Dan Quinn hasn't already been fired. How is this still a thing right now? Just the way their season has started and the bad taste it's put in everyone's mouth from having to watch that Monday night game where they just get rocked by the Packers. This thing's over. It's dead on arrival. Get him out of there.
I think the excuse, that's used is Julio got hurt and missed significant time in that game, missed a whole half. Jair Alexander was able to shut down Calvin Ridley, so you can make some excuses for him, but you've got to be running out. This is now with Dallas and Chicago added to the New England Super Bowl, as his teams have shown they can't hold on to leads when they get them.
Mm-hmm. And I think you got to put in my guy Matt Patricia too, because we're talking about blowing leads. How many leads has he blown in his career? I think he's coached maybe 30 games. It's probably a little bit over 30 games now, but he's blown 11 leads during that time. So that's a third of his games are blown leads. That's ridiculous. And then the other games, they're getting blown out. So
yes,
good luck with that.
Yes, lots more blowing than on a porn set. All right. We are
unscripted, unplugged here for fantasy sake.
Hey, you told me the reins are off this season, so they are now officially off. All right. So at what point do you think, and we can talk a little about this a little bit more in the Bears segment, but do you think how warm is Nagy's seat?
Pretty warm. I think the 4-1 start buys him a lot of time. That's going to be something where they're going to point to his record over and over again. I think if Nagy goes, Pace is going to go too.
Yeah.
So that's the real problem is that it's going to blow out everybody.
Yeah.
So I had asked this in our group chat. I had asked this in our group chat amongst the 9 for fantasy sake people. What's the chances that Doug Peterson's Super Bowl is a fluke and the Andy Reid coaching tree not that good at coaching football?
I don't remember this question.
I think that it's still a very good coaching tree because of how many coaches it puts in the NFL. It's not like the New England coaching tree where they all go out and they immediately fail. I think you've seen some success from these coaches. It's one of those things where I think Andy Reid is kind of a kingmaker, though. And I think that you're going to see that trend break when you see the Chiefs offensive coordinator, DJ, you know his name.
Eric Bieniemy.
That'd be the one. I completely blanked on his name, but he's going to get a head coaching job either at the end of this year or maybe even sooner with these jobs starting to become available. And I think he's going to do very well for himself, especially the way the NFL is trending right now with the way that quarterbacks are used and the way that the game is going more in a different fundamental direction than most of the coaches in the NFL are willing to do.
Right. I think that if you see, I watched a lot more Chiefs games than you guys do, but
Chiefs.
No, I hate you. Bieniemy is a lot more involved than his predecessors were in the offense on the sidelines. Like, it's no longer just Andy Reid sitting there talking to Mahomes. Bieniemy's in there in the conversations too, and you can see, especially when you look at that video that was all over the off season with the Wasp play that they ran to win the Super Bowl. Essentially, he was talking to Bieniemy about it. It wasn't a conversation with Andy Reid. So Bieniemy's got a more handle on the best offense in the NFL, and I think that he will definitely get a job this off season.
Bieniemy calls the plays, so I think you can give a lot of the success to him. I know Andy Reid, you look at his career and how much success he's had throughout it. I think that he deserves a majority of the credit, but I think Bieniemy is one of these real stars that can take over. And the fact that he hasn't had a job yet is just kind of a little perplexing. And it kind of shows you that it is kind of an old boys club for NFL coaches because they keep recycling the same guys. They're talking about Rex Ryan again for no reason whatsoever. Yeah.
One of my theories for a long time, or for, this offseason, was he was kind of that, it took Ron Rivera a really long time to get a job. And I think that Eric Bieniemy is kind of playing that role now, where he's the token Rooney Rule interview, where teams bring him in, so they abide by the interview in a minority. But unfortunately, they had I think teams had no intention on hiring him. He was the final two for several jobs, and they just did not hire him. They hired guys that I feel like with the momentum that Bieniemy had coming off the Super Bowl, I would have hired Bieniemy.
I thought it was interesting this week. They were talking to Ozzie Guillen, and he said, I don't want to do interviews anymore because I don't want to be the token guy. And I think that's where a lot of candidates are at this point. They don't want to be the guy that just gets brought in to be a guy.
Yeah.
I was trying to look, and I can't find it, if there has been any coordinator on one team that gets hired to be an NFL coach for another mid-season. I can't find that information.
That'd be kind of interesting. Yeah, I think one of the things that I would like to see, it was a stupid conversation, because I think that, these minority coaches should get looks on their own merits, but giving picks and stuff like that for hiring minority coaches and GMs was tossed around in the offseason. And it's like, if you were the Chiefs, you have a very solid candidate with Bieniemy. Why not let Bieniemy be your head coach and Andy Reid be your offensive coordinator, just so you can get an extra pick?
I think the headline in that was a dumb idea. I think the underlying idea was much better. If you read more about what they were trying to do, it was to create kind of like a internship almost, where a lot of coaches that were minorities would get a chance to be getting these fundamental roles in a way that would benefit the team to keep them, opposed to the idea that you kind of latched onto about the draft picks. Mm-hmm. It was more of getting these guys in a position to succeed instead of just recycling the same guys over and over again because they have the experience. So
yeah. I don't know if you guys saw Jordan's comment pop up. He as a Vikings fan, kind of believes that Mike Zimmer's seat might also be getting kind of toasty. And, they're kind of in the situation where they've been good over the last several years and just never could get it done in the postseason. They haven't beaten the Bears in what seems like a decade. Zimmer has failed to win the big game, and now their defense is struggling too. And that was, his baby, his calling card was he was a good defensive head coach.
Yeah, when they're a run-first team, I think that it's more of an old school idea. You've got the running back to do it, but he's going to be a run guy and rely on his defense. And when the defense isn't there, then a lot of the fingers start pointing to him. So
agreed.
Something where his seat is definitely warm. I wouldn't think in season he would get fired.
Right.
I don't think he's the next guy to get fired, but at the end of the year, I wouldn't be surprised if they went in a different direction.
Hashtag tank for Trevor is what the Vikings fans are passing around, except they failed by beating the Texans last week, who don't even have a pick.
And they still have a ton of money wrapped up in Cousins.
Yeah, that's the real thing is that what do you do with Kirk Cousins after that? And it's one of those things where you don't want to be in the wilderness, so I understand the reasoning behind it is you want to latch on to a guy who's good enough to get you to where you need to be. But if he's not going to be the guy that puts you over the top, then that's going to be something that has to change eventually.
What's crazy is when you think about the NFC North, and I saw that somebody had said this on Twitter about the Bears, is the Bears, the Vikings, and the Lions are all kind of in the same situation where they're too good to get a high draft pick to get a great quarterback, but they're too bad to actually be a contender.
It's probably true. Outside of the Packers, which, I mean, the Packers are just right where they want to be, and they still took a quarterback. And a lot of people bashed on them at the time for taking Jordan Love, but they're set up for the future now, too. If they want to move on from Rodgers, they have the ability to do that, and they're set up for the future, which, I mean, a lot of these teams aren't. If you look at the Bears, they're done with Trubisky after this year. They have, 2 years left on their current quarterback's deal right now. So, I mean, if you're moving on from these guys, who's the next guy? There is no next guy at this point, which is why maybe somebody goes knocking on the door of the Washington football team and goes after Haskins.
Yeah, I think that's a legitimate question. That's why I asked it last week, that he's a young quarterback that you can mold and do something with. Somebody's got to be knocking on their door, seeing what they can do with him, whether that is New England, whether that is, like you said, Minnesota, any of those guys. He's still early enough on in his career that you can take him and do something with him.
I think the analogy that really made sense to me was you look back to another Andy Reid guy. You look back to Donovan McNabb, the decision Donovan McNabb or Achilles Smith. If those guys flip-flop places, do they flip-flop careers? Is Achilles Smith a fringe Hall of Famer just by being on the Eagles and being underneath Andy Reid? Or is Donovan McNabb a guy who's immediately out of the league because he's on the Cincinnati Bengals and they're a train wreck? So it's one of those things that you can't really rewrite history, but it makes you wonder about what could happen if just one little change of location, one change of coaching really happens, how those career trajectories change.
Yeah. That was the Trubisky Mahomes.
I just don't think Trubisky is smart enough to actually pull that analogy off. That's the real problem, is you have to be able to understand what you're seeing. And I think that was Mitch's biggest problem. It was never about talent for him. It was about knowing what you're seeing and being able to react to it. He was too easily fooled. And that's why he was always good against the Lions, is because they would only play man coverage and he knew what to do. But when teams start disguising what they're doing or playing zone, he gets confused.
Yeah. Quarterbacks played between the ears. It's not, everybody talks about it being arm strength and whatever, but it's data processing is basically what that position boils down to. And his processor just unfortunately wasn't quick enough.
And that's why I really like what I'm seeing from Joe Burrow, is because Joe Burrow, there's no hesitation there. He really gets the ball out fast. He gets it to where it needs to be. And he's not blanketing like a guy like AJ Green, who you would expect to have some sort of career year this year, just because you look to guys like Mitch, who are throwing to Robinson all the time. You look to guys like Kyler Murray, who were throwing to Larry Fitzgerald all the time last year. This is a situation where Burrow is going to the guys that are open. And AJ Green, maybe he has lost a step, but he's getting a lot of targets, but he's not getting a lot of catches, and that's concerning.
Right. Okay, so that'll take us to the end of our first segment. We are now going to try and play a commercial, which we've been trying to do for the last 4 weeks. If that doesn't work, then we'll read them. But we're going to cross our fingers that my Kavanaugh's ad works this week. All right.
Sunday is the best day at Kavanaugh's Hilltop Bar and Grill in Rock Island. You can now enjoy a limited brunch menu while listening to your favorite Jamokes talk about fantasy football. And let me tell you, there's nothing better than Kavanaugh's Brunch Burger, which is a sizzling all-beef patty topped with an egg and hash browns and served with a side of hand-cut fries. Stick around after the show and grab one of the 250 tall boys or a Bloody Mary while checking out all of the action from every game around the league and keeping up with your fantasy studs on one of their numerous screens with NFL Sunday Ticket. That's Kavanaugh's Hilltop Bar and Grill, 1228 30th Street in Rock Island, the non-bubble home for fantasy sake.
Apparently, Doug can't keep perfect rhythm with no metronome like that song said.
I'm going to re-record them this week, but at least they're recorded. So we have those. And I didn't realize until after I was all done with them that there was a TikTok.
I can also
you put it on TikTok.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you could put it on TikTok.
If I had,
I can see Doug recording these commercials going like this with the metronome.
Gotta bob it.
I'm dizzy now.
Yes. All right. So for this portion, let's talk a little start sit. Since we've got since the schedule this week is a little bit crazy. So, like we keep saying. So, just in case that you can't read the bottom of the screen or you have been living under a rock, there is no Denver New England game this week that has been canceled or at least pushed back a week. So you need to get both of those teams out of your lineup. You're also missing Green Bay and Detroit with their natural bye. Those are also not playing this week. So you need to pull all those folks out. Hopefully you're not like me and made a trade for anybody on Tennessee or Denver or anybody like that, because now your whole team is messed up and you're going to spend the rest of the time after the show trying to build yourself a lineup. So, guys, in terms of start sit, who's a couple of guys that you are higher on this week? And I'll bring up the stuff from the crew. But who are a couple of guys that you're looking to play this week, and who are a couple of guys that you're looking to avoid this week?
Well, hopefully your commissioner made
provisions.
Made an ability to have like a substitute guy if these games aren't played. I know I did in my leagues like we had last week. As far as quarterback, Garoppolo's back this week, so I would look at him. Maybe you could find Ryan Fitzpatrick, Philly Rivers on the waiver wire. Maybe get them into your lineup as far as quarterbacks. If you have Josh Allen. As far as running back, I really liked what I saw out of Damian Harris against the Chiefs, so he would be an interesting guy. Some of the further down guys at running back are going to be owned, so you're really struggling. If you were able to get Justin Jackson off of waivers with Eckler, he'd be a guy I'd look at with Singletary and Henry questionable to play. Obviously, Melvin Gordon's going to be out this week, as is Philip Lindsay if you were throwing him back in your lineup with him returning. Wide receiver wise, it's kind of ugly. The Zacchaeus guy for Atlanta, I think he's a solid choice, especially if Julio doesn't play, to replace your receivers. But really, outside of Julian Edelman and maybe Jerry Jeudy, you probably weren't playing a ton of receivers from Denver and New England. If Jonnu Smith doesn't play, good luck at tight end. I would maybe take a look at Gerald Everett from the Rams as a guy you could maybe stream, hoping he gets into the end zone.
Yeah, I think Everett is a good idea just because they are giving him looks in the red zone. I think Higbee draws a crowd right now, so he's probably not good enough to actually get away from everybody. It's one of those things this week where it's as frustrating as it's ever been because this week I have Josh Allen in one league, and my backup to Josh Allen is Ryan Tannehill. So it's one of those things where it was just like, let's go to the waiver wire, look at who's out there. I got Jared Goff. And so I'm banking on this Rams game being good. No, it's a good pull from free agency. I don't know why he got dropped, but you just got to look at who's available right now. Antonio Gibson is a guy that I know everybody's very high on right now. It makes a lot of sense there. I think since they are switching quarterbacks, that's another reason to really like his value this week because they're going to rely a little bit more on that running game.
Here's another thing to consider, and I'm big on having those guys in your flex. I would put my Titans, Buffalo guys in your flex because it gives you a little bit more flexibility going into that game. I would look at adding anybody from that Chargers Saints game. So maybe Jalen Guyton, if he's a free agent, he's the number 3 wide receiver in Los Angeles. Tyron Johnson got some looks last week from Justin Herbert. An interesting add from that Chargers depth chart is Donald Parham Jr. He lit it up in the XFL, and he's an interesting look for the Chargers. And then on the Saints side, you're kind of limited because a lot of those guys are going to be already owned, especially with Michael Thomas already going to play. Adam Troutman, the backup tight end for New Orleans, if he's a free agent, maybe give him a look. You're kind of limited from there, but I would take a look at what's available from New Orleans and the Chargers, just in case, there's a positive test from the Titans tomorrow and they bang that game all of a sudden.
Yeah, I think you almost have to expect that at this point. It's one of those things where you're just looking for guys that can not only cover you, but can make sure that you're going to be safe no matter what. I would rather add somebody that I know is going to play over gambling on a game where I have no idea if somebody's going to play. I think he may be owned in a lot of leagues, but Traquan Smith has really looked very good for New Orleans right now. And that's somebody that is going to be an interesting play. I think he should be available in most leagues, so maybe take a look at that.
I kind of think that the NFL does care about fantasy football, so you might get a decision on Tennessee, Buffalo before the noon games to make a decision. If your league isn't allowing for that substitution, like some leagues are, another game you could look at for a sub, just in case something happens throughout the day, is that Minnesota-Seattle game. Maybe dip deep into the depth chart with Miami with BC Johnson or Chad Beebe, who's listed as the number 3 receiver for Minnesota. And then for Seattle, David Moore just always happens to find the end zone. I mean, he's got Mr. Unlimited Russell Wilson throwing to him. So if you could add somebody from that game to give yourself a little insurance. I'm all about insuring myself in fantasy football. So I want to play my Derrick Henry. I want to play my Devin Singletary. I want to play my Stephon Diggs, obviously. So if your commissioner's not allowing for that insurance play, it's something I would look at, is to own one of those guys to give myself a little bit extra time to make a decision.
I think you just want to try and put a lineup out this week. You want to believe that those games are going to get played, and there's probably a likelihood that it does get played that's very high. But at the same time, the NFL can't go against the players' union. You can't be this league that's about the NFL cares about its players, and we're doing all these things to stop the head injuries and things like that, and then be like, here you go play against these guys who have COVID right now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, you know, as a Chiefs fan, you know, we haven't seen anything in the 6 days, but I was kind of nervous knowing that Stephon Gilmore played 53 snaps against our offense with coronavirus, you know.
Whose offense?
What?
Whose offense?
He's alley-ooping it, DJ. Just say it. Just say it.
I said, as a Chiefs fan, our offense.
Chiefs.
I am a member of the Chiefs Kingdom. Wrong flag. I am a member of the Chiefs Kingdom, okay?
Boo.
Yes, but you have peasant status.
I have peasant status in my own family.
That's true.
I'd like some presents.
You're a peasant too, Chris.
Present status? Accepted. David Moore, I think, is a really good idea, DJ. He's only rostered in about 2% of leagues on ESPN. So I really like him. He's a week-to-week player, though. You don't want him long-term. I think it's a boomer bust play, but if you need it, David Moore is a guy who really makes a lot of sense. I think he puts up good yards even when he doesn't find the end zone most of the time. It's just those games where he puts up 0. That's the real problem for him, right? Is he's either going to have a game or he's going to be a 0. And that's the boomer bust of him and why he's not long-term rosterable. You got to worry about somebody like that.
We've got a good question from Jordan Rangel on the kind of what we were talking about. Would you start Taysom Hill over Josh Allen as Superflex in the event the Bills-Titans game gets banged on Tuesday? I would say, just like I would put Josh Allen in there, knowing that you have until tomorrow to make the decision. I feel like it's not going to be a last-minute thing, that if they're not going to play, they're going to make the decision tomorrow. I can't foresee them getting to all the way to Tuesday before they say we're not playing this game. So I would put Josh Allen in there, hoping you know by 7 o'clock tomorrow evening whether or not they're going to play.
I just don't want to handcuff myself so much to tie myself to these limited options. I would rather try to make my lineup like this game isn't happening. And that's the way I've had to kind of look at it because of the quarterback situation. When you have Tannehill and Josh Allen, it was like, okay, you got to just accept that maybe neither one of these games happens and go to the waiver wire and start looking. Right. I don't love Taysom Hill because he's a lot like David Moore, where it's just going to depend on what week it is. If he's going to have a big game or if he's going to do anything for you, or he's going to be that 0 again. And a lot of your league's going to depend on how you can roster Taysom Hill too, because some leagues he's QB only, which is problematic.
Yes. Yeah. He's a weird 20. He's a 2020 case of
I don't think in our lifetimes we'll probably ever see a player like Taysom Hill again. I don't think he's a good quarterback. I don't think he's a franchise quarterback like some people have said. But the fact that there's a guy who can contribute to offense and special teams in this way, I mean, maybe Cordero Patterson is the closest example of someone like that. But to have him also play quarterback to a degree is just something that you probably have to go back to the old black and white footage, or that footage that's going around this week of the worst play in football history, where some guy tries to jump pass it to someone in the end zone. It's just awful all around.
You're going to see the Chiefs run that play successfully today.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. Chiefs.
Yeah, I agree with you about Taysom Hill. I think Taysom Hill's kind of what people foresaw like Joe Webb being at one point. And I don't think he's great at anything he does.
Special teams. He's pretty good.
Yeah, but agreed. I remember the first time I ever saw Taysom Hill on the field, I'm like, why do they have number 7 as their gunner? Like, what is happening?
You think that wide receiver must be really fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Sean Payton. Should know better.
I got a quick one that's weird. I've been thinking a lot, is Mark Anderson not really in the one conversation for tight ends, but is he the 1A now of the tight end conversation at this point? Because he just has so many things that he does well, and he just is a really interesting player to me.
Mark Anderson or Mark Andrews?
Mark Andrews, I'm sorry.
Okay. I don't know Mark Anderson.
I think he's styled.
Mark Anderson was the Bears' right end who had all the sacks that one year and then was terrible after that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the one.
Julio Jones is inactive for today. That just came through Shefty Bomb.
Have they really gone anywhere on whether or not Michael Thomas is playing? That's another thing that I haven't really kept track of this week.
Last I saw, they're projecting him to be active.
Okay, gotcha. It's felt like that's been the way it's been the last couple weeks. And then, when it comes around to Sunday, they're like, no, he's done.
Well, he's got another day.
One more day.
One
more chance. Yeah. All right. Well, so no to Mark Andrews then? I mean, he's got 4 touchdowns already this year. He's got 12 catches, but still.
Yeah, I would say I have no problem rolling him out there. I think he's very good.
DJ, 1A.
What was that?
Mark Andrews, 1A of the tight end situation.
You don't want me to answer that because you know
why?
True.
No, I'm allowing you to be all like Travis Kelce is great. And Kittle is great.
Travis Kelce's 1A, George Kittle's 1B, Mark Andrews is number 3.
All right, fine.
All right.
I'll allow it.
Okay. We'll
take us to the bridge, Doug.
And we'll give you that. Okay. So going to hit a commercial break here. On the other side of that, we're going to do a little underrated, overrated. So Chris, go pull that file that you were talking about so that we can have that, because I don't have any idea where it is. And then we'll talk a little underrated, overrated. We'll go from there, and then we'll talk a little Bears on the other side of that. So let me fire that up.
Located in the Belgian neighborhood of 7th Street in Moline, Clint's Draft House Pizza and Grill is home to some of the Quad City's best food and drink specials. On Sundays, there's no better place to be. Clint's is serving up 75-cent wings and $4 Bloody Marys all day long. And your favorite team playing in those out-of-market games? You'll never miss a second of the action on one of their 10 screens with NFL Sunday Ticket. And after you've had your wing and bloody fix, finish your football watching experience off with one of their famous Quad City style pizzas. And folks, they know pizza. They've been spinning QC style pies for the last 22 years. So make Clint's part of your Sunday football routine. Clint's Draft House Pizza and Grill, 7th Street in Moline.
All right. So we are back and better than ever. We can steal that because that shows off the air now. All right. So, Chris, you want to talk a little underrated, overrated. So,
yeah, this week Deadspin came out with a list of overrated and underrated players. And the overrated players were more interesting to me. The one they start off with is Eli. And that's one I think is very contentious for a lot of people because he has the Super Bowls. But at the same time, he's a below 500 quarterback who just never looked like he was a guy who won you games. So Eli, is that a guy that you think is overrated or underrated?
I'd say he's rated. I'd say he's about what people's opinion of him is about right. He's okay. Who happens to caught fire a couple of times and won a couple of Super Bowls. He went all Nick Foles on people 2 weeks but otherwise he's meh.
But we're not putting Nick Foles in the Hall of Fame.
No, we're not.
No.
If he was a Chief, I would.
I know, you would.
He's a former Chief.
If his name was Eli Smith, probably not. But because he carries that Manning tag, even
the Eli's greatest moment is Tyree catching the ball off his helmet. It's not like, oh, Eli Manning put a great ball out there.
True.
Even even though it should have been he was in the grasp and it should have been whistled dead, but
that was early on. I think they benefited from that. Was like the first year of that kind of rule where I think the Patriots player kind of let him go a little bit, just worrying about a penalty coming because they didn't want the whole deal of you throw him to the ground, you get the penalty, and on 4th and forever, you end up with a first down. So it makes sense that happened. But another one they talked a lot about is Marvin Lewis as the coach of their overrated team.
Yes, overrated.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
He had a lot of really good teams that he took to the playoffs and never could get anything done. He had 2 very good coordinators who became average head coaches, and Jay Gruden and Mike Zimmer, and they had a really good offense at one point with Palmer and TJ Houshmandzadeh and Chad Johnson, and they just never could get anything done with him as the head coach.
And Rudy Johnson.
Yeah.
What was that?
Rudy Johnson. He was the running back.
Yeah. Well, they had,
along with TJ, who's your mama?
Well, to be fair, that Cincinnati team seemed destined to go to the Super Bowl right up until a giant fat man fell on Carson Palmer too. Yeah. That was horrific, but still, it's one of those things where you think of what could have been, and in today's kind of rules, that would have been like a no-go completely. But it was fine in the time.
And John Kitna's first play, he sacks himself.
That sounds like a John Kitna thing to do. So
that's the thing is like no matter who would have come into the game, that was kind of like seeing somebody get into a car wreck and then driving away and having the same car T-bone you. Like it was just, you're kind of scared.
So the running back position they're overrated was Ezekiel Elliott. Do you guys think that he's overrated? Because I think he's kind of just properly rated. He has the kind of the fans out there, but at the same time, I feel like there's a lot of detractors too.
Here's the thing: Zeke's had one of the best offensive lines in the history of football.
Right.
And so it's kind of hard to rate him in my mind. It's kind of hard to say if he's over or underrated because he's gotten the benefit of playing behind one of the best offensive lines in the history of football. And now that the guys are going down through 4 weeks, he doesn't have a 100-yard game. And so you kind of question, I still think he's one of the top 5-10 backs in the NFL. But he has shown he can work hard, but I think it's just really difficult to rate him based on what he's had around him.
Yes, he's overrated. He's a punk. All right.
The tight end position was pretty clear cut. It was Jeremy Shockey, and then there was one vote for Travis Kelce in there. So I just thought you would want to know about that, DJ.
Overrated?
So you could get your pitchforks ready.
I didn't know they were taking my votes.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I was surprised as well, Doug. You got to get in there. Jeremy Shockey, most overrated. That makes sense to you guys?
Yes.
100%. OBJ at wide receiver.
Yeah, I think OBJ kind of lives on one catch of all time.
Even his season last year, though, that was supposed to be so bad, he still put up really good numbers.
It's like what Roger said on that Pat McAfee show is for OBJ, his down years are still really good years for other receivers.
Right.
Speaking of overrated.
Oh, Doug throwing some haymakers.
Are you talking about me? I'm overrated?
No, I think he's saying Aaron Rodgers is overrated.
Aaron Rodgers.
Oof.
Is this Doug's hot take of the show?
Yes, this is Doug's hot take of the show.
Nice. This is Doug's version of Nate thinking pumpkin pie is trash.
Pumpkin pie is trash.
What are you doing?
I don't like pie. Compared to other pies, pumpkin pie is not good.
We'll have this fight.
It's a seasonal. It's fine.
This is the next month. This is next month's argument, though.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
We'll save it for Thanksgiving.
Yes. In 2 weeks, we get a fight about Halloween candy, which is always fun.
There's no fight. Reese's 1-1.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, I agree with that. Except that it's Reese's, not Reese's.
Oh, suck it.
Oh.
He's
Okay.
making it extra possessive. DJ's it is Reese's.
Yeah, that's just that Rocky education. Okay.
You want another one, or we want to move on?
Yeah, let's do one more because we got another 6 minutes.
Okay, here's one for Doug. Brian Urlacher.
Ooh,
Overrated.
little bit. Yeah, I can see that.
Why do you say that?
He was.
Doug wasn't even a Bears fan when Urlacher was good. He was a Cowboy.
I know, that's why he's objective.
Yes, but he was still. He was the best linebacker of that, but compared to the rest of the Bears' great linebackers, he's not as good as the rest of those guys.
I think
make those guys Jarvis.
I want an all-time ranking then, because in my mind it's Butkus, Singletary, Urlacher, George. So
it's Singletary, Butkus, George, maybe Urlacher.
Okay. We'll argue about this later.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
This seems like a Wednesday theme, Doug.
Urlacher, I think, doesn't get the credit for what he was able to do in that defense. That defense ran around him because of his ability to be a safety and a linebacker at the same time. And so because he dropped so deep into coverage, a lot of times he didn't get the tackles that a lot of other players of his position did get, even though he usually did lead the Bears in tackles every year. So I think that really having that kind of ability is so rare that we don't know how to really put it into perspective consistently, because the analytics for football lags way behind what there is for baseball. So if there was something similar to that, I think the only player that like really could do what Urlacher is able to do is Isaiah Simmons, just because of his elite speed and his ability to play at the safety linebacker position like that.
Any other defensive guys they had on that list?
I want to say Michael Strahan was in the mix for defensive end, but I can't remember who they actually landed on. And they talked about Ray Lewis a lot too, but I can't remember who they actually picked as their defensive player that was bad. They picked a safety who was a New York guy that I had never heard of before. The defensive end they chose was Ndamukong Suh, which I think he's properly rated, because a lot of people just kind of go off of what the dirty hits and things like that. This is a guy who hasn't missed like a game in his entire career. If he has, it's less than 5. And that's ridiculous for a guy at a position that is just waiting to have somebody roll up your legs. That's valuable in the NFL for sure.
That's because he's usually busy rolling up other people's legs.
Yeah, it's true. No, he stomps other people's legs, Doug. He doesn't roll on them. That wouldn't be as like distracting and terrible.
He stomped that dude in the face. And another dude in the ding dong button.
He just kicked him in the face. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not in the rule book. I think Josh Norman was a cornerback too, if you want to yell about that. But I think that's 100% true. That was reputation alone.
I'm curious who the underrated quarterback, running back, and wide receiver are.
Okay.
He's switching for Chiefs.
Oh, he's worried about his Chiefs. Yeah, I can understand. Since my computer froze, it's going to take me a second. So I would say that there were a lot of votes for Ditka for overrated coach. Doug, do you have any opinions on Ditka? Is that overrated, underrated?
I could see where they'd make the case for that, because the 85 Bears won a lot on the basis of their defense, and basically Buddy Ryan was the one who was running that almost exclusively. So I could see where you can make a case for that, especially since Ditka's tenure in New Orleans was not great. I could see where they could get that.
Well, there was another name that caught my eye. It was they had Marshall Faulk in there an awful lot for running back. And I was surprised by that because Marshall Faulk was kind of the guy who set the pace for the current running back. You have to be able to catch the ball out of the backfield, and you have to be able to run the ball with a lot of success too. I mean, going back to Indianapolis early on in his career, he never really had a great quarterback until Eli Manning got there, or I'm sorry, Peyton Manning got there. My brain's all crossed up today. Peyton got there, and then it was only a very brief time that they were both on the same team.
Yeah, and then he got to the greatest show on turf, and that really accelerated his career.
Mm-hmm. So underrated running back, they went with Frank Gore, which I think makes a lot of sense.
My guy.
Just because he's been playing for 20 straight years. They also went with Michael Vick as the most underrated quarterback.
No.
You feel that at all?
See that?
I think the argument they tried to make was that a lot of these current quarterbacks don't end up being quarterbacks without Michael Vick coming before. And that makes sense.
The other thing I think about with like Vick and how good he was, imagine if all of his runs were on scrambles. So imagine if they called quarterback runs the way they do now.
Oh, you mean like an RPO with Vick?
Well, an RPO is the designed runs that Lamar gets called.
Yeah. No, yeah.
True.
I'm sure they had some design runs in there. They weren't as prevalent as they are now.
Right.
Yeah.
A couple of game, but yeah, most of his yardage came on breakdowns where he just flushed out.
Their underrated one is very hard to argue with because it's Barry Sanders, and I think that's true.
I think you're right.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Is Barry Sanders the best running back of all time?
Yes.
No.
Well,
yeah, I would say so.
Well, in my lifetime, yes, because I didn't see like Gale Sayers, and I was just a little too young to see Peyton. So
if he's the best running back of all time, how can he be underrated?
Don't get your paradoxes in here.
I'm here to cross you up, Doug. That's all I'm doing.
The curveball and Chris brings the heat.
I'm still scrolling, so
okay. That's pretty much the end of the segment anyway. So unless you see something here in the next 30 seconds that really likes you.
No, I'm not worried about it. I think that a commercial break is well deserved at this point.
All right, great. Okay, cool. So we'll hit a commercial break. On the other side of that, we're going to talk a little Bears and a little Packers. We'll recap Thursday night. Packers have got the week off, but we're going to talk a little bit about them, and then we'll go ahead and we will keep an eye on those inactives, waiting for all of DJ's Shefty bombs.
Football season is just underway. If you're spending Sundays watching football anywhere but Van's Pizza Pub and Grill, you've been doing it wrong. Van's Pizza Pub and Grill, 3333 North Harrison Street in Davenport, is the best place to catch all of your favorite games. And with 13 weeks left in the season, you've still got time to make it your routine. Start your meal off with their famous McGuire's Original Nachos or Bready Nuggets. Then ask about one of their original QC-style pizzas. Or be your own quarterback and call an audible and create your own. The Van's crew will be sure that your play call gets paid every time. Van's Pizza Pub and Grill, 3333 North Harrison Street in Davenport. Come get served.
Even though we all aren't there to do it, Doug was still trying to do it, where he's going to make all of us say one of the words.
Yes. All right. So before we jump into the next segment, a couple of things to talk about. One, we do have a GoFundMe that is going. There's not our GoFundMe, but there is a GoFundMe going for Fantasy's Sake founder Nathan Joyce. Nate had an accident on deck hockey, and so we are. So there is a GoFundMe going for him. So make sure that you click on the link on our site. DJ's laughing for whatever reason. But yeah, make sure you go click on that to donate and give to that if you can. We also do have a new Wednesday night show that we are calling Short Yardage. That is brought to us by the Big Cheese. that we kind of go on there. We just kind of, it's a little bit more freeform than this. Not that this has any type of rails, but that's even more outlandish, where we just kind of go on there and just kind of talk for 30, 45 minutes on there. So make sure that you are picking that up on Wednesday nights. All right. So Wednesdays roll right into Thursdays, and on Thursdays, the Bears came to play. So we looked like we were going to have another hideous defeat. But once more, the Bears snatched victory from the jaws of defeat. Nick Foles beat Brady again. I didn't think that on Wednesday night, we actually talked about this game, and I was like, this is going to come down to like a last second kick, and the score is going to be like something super low. I had it like 27-24, so I wasn't that far off. But okay, let's start with the weird thing. When was the last time you saw Tom Brady not know how many downs left he had?
It's a Thursday night game.
Thursday night game.
Yeah. Really, I think it was just a confluence of things. I have no idea how you don't know what down it is, because you look to the sideline and you see the marker. You look straight ahead, there's a scoreboard that has the down and distance there. I don't know how you miss it. Really, it's perplexing to me in an NFL game. I can see it happening in high school or college because maybe the things aren't like properly taken care of or anything like that. But it was just so delicious to spend all night listening to Joe Buck tell us how incredible Bruce Arians was as an offensive master and how incredible Tom Brady was as an offensive master, and then for them not to know what down it is at the end of the game.
Did they? I was listening to a alternate feed, so I didn't have to put up with that.
You chose wisely.
I did.
DJ, ideas.
Huh.
Never mind. All right, DJ has no ideas.
No.
I think the thing about the Bears game that was really impressive to me was to see the defense show up in a way that they actually looked like a defense that was in control of the game. Previously, you have to think way back to that 2018 season for the Bears to take over a game. And even then, that was one of their critical downfalls, was not being able to stop teams late in games. The Eagles playoff game only came down to a field goal because the defense couldn't stop them. And you go back to even previous games that they lost that season. There weren't a whole lot of losses, but the Giants game that they lost, they couldn't stop the offense at the end. They couldn't stop the Miami Dolphins at the end of that game. And that 2018 defense was probably better than this year's unit. So if you think about what this defense was able to do to just get that stop at the end of the game and get Tom Brady that messed up that he doesn't know what down it is, I think that says a lot about what Khalil Mack and this unit can do going forward.
Well, I think the fact that you saw Khalil Mack one-arm bench press Tristan Wirfs into the turf got Brady a little shook.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Well, he was already on roller skates at that point. He could have done whatever he wanted to him. But yes, to see that kind of strength from Khalil Mack tells you that he's closer to 100% than he has been in recent games, I want to say.
Yeah, that was an impressive feat. We haven't seen Khalil Mack go that kind of crazy since that opening night game against the Packers.
And he only played for one half that game, basically, because they shut him down the second half.
Yeah.
Oh, he was just gassed that second half. He was out there. He was just gassed.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about the Packers. We do kind of put them a wee bit on the back burner, but they are playing very, very well. They are undefeated going into their bye week. At what point, let me pull up their schedule while I ask this. At what point do you guys think that they are going to lose?
They're going to drop a division game to somebody because they inevitably always do. When that comes, not really sure. They've already beaten the Vikings, or they do play the Vikings in a couple of weeks. Maybe I'm going to say their first loss is going to be on the 5th of November to the 49ers in San Francisco.
It's going to be a weird game that we just don't see coming. Like, it's going to be one of these games that just doesn't make sense. So they're going to lose to, like, the Texans or something, where, like, the Deshaun Watson gets on a heater and he just can't be stopped. And, like, Rodgers has, like, a bad game for Rodgers, and he just throws a little too many incompletions or something because he doesn't throw interceptions. So it's going to be one of those games where they get beat up in the game, and they're kind of handcuffed from a certain standpoint. The other team gets super hot, and it's going to be one of these teams that isn't very good that beats them. Maybe it'll be the Bears.
If they lose to Jacksonville, I will talk so much garbage.
Well, the Colts game makes too much sense, right? Like, the Colts may be the best team, like, in the NFL right now, just because that defense is elite. DeForest Buckner, I don't think gets nearly enough credit. Like, we saw the 49ers lose to the Cardinals early in the year, and the reaction was, what is wrong with the 49ers? And maybe the Cardinals are this good, when I think they're just missing somebody like DeForest Buckner to take over a game.
Right. Yeah, I agree. We should talk a little Vikings since they are playing today. What do you I mean, Dalvin Cook's looked good, but as far as the rest of the offense, not great. Do you think this is one of those years where they kind of just they tank it, or are they going to eventually figure it out?
I think with Mike Zimmer, you've seen in recent years, he does do a good job at making adjustments. And I think it was a couple years ago where they changed play callers and they went more to that running first style instead of putting the ball in Kirk Cousins' hands a lot. And that really saved their season. I think they're trying to do that a little bit more this year. I know Justin Jefferson is really been hot the last couple weeks, and you've got something special there. But at the same time, you need to kind of tone this thing down a little bit and get back to what you're used to and put Kirk Cousins in position where he can succeed, because he's not a guy who you want throwing the ball over and over again. He's a guy you want to just do what he's good at, go off a play action, make the most of what he can do.
Yeah. I mean, he's never going to be the guy with a big arm that throws it 60 yards down the field. You have to build the offense around the fact that he's going to dink and dunk to get there.
Stupid dog decided I don't need to be on TV today.
Maybe he's as tired of your picks as we are.
I just saw your carpet for a while there, DJ. It was troubling.
I turned it off as quick as possible.
So Vikings, DJ, what do you think about the Vikings offense? Do you think they can right the ship?
Yeah, because they do get their schedule does get a little easier as the season goes on, and I think they have the talent there, but they need to just kind of figure out Cousins underthrowing the ball all the time. So when Cousins figures out who he's throwing it to on a consistent basis, and I think Jefferson's done a pretty good job stepping in for the Diggs role, but they need some more consistency out of like Rudolph, and they need to find Irv Smith Jr. and more consistency out of Adam Thielen.
Yeah, Thielen's been pretty good so far this year, but it's one of those things where you need him to be extra elite for this team to take over offensively. I think that when you look at how much this defense has struggled, that maybe they made some wrong decisions in the offseason that they are starting to regret a little bit, because they let some guys go that were key pieces. They tried to fill in with new acquisitions that made a lot of sense, and they seemed like they were going to be a big deal at the time. But I think the reason this team has struggled is because that defense has struggled more than anything.
Yeah. Sorry, I was distracted by the baby.
I was too.
Yeah. Star of the show showed up. Jordan Rangel does want them to go ahead and tank for Trevor, which is not a bad strategy either.
Well, I mean, I think today's game really is going to hinge on whether you decide to go in one direction or not. If you put up a good game against this Seattle team that looks like they're maybe the favorite to win the NFC at this point, you got to feel good about your team moving forward. If you get burned up by them, then you have every reason to start thinking about next year. It's one of those things, though, that when you look at the Seattle team, there's reason to believe that the Vikings offense can have a breakout day here. Seattle has been anything but good on defense. Their main guy is Adams. Adams out maybe today. Who knows at this point, because he's banged up. He's not at full health. So what can you get out of this offense that has every reason to succeed today? Will tell you a lot about what their future is going to be like this year.
Any rebuttal to that, Mr. Jarvis?
No, sir.
All righty.
Well,
okay.
And if you look past this week, though, I'm sorry, Doug, but if you look past this week, you get Atlanta after that. You get the Packers, which, if given they're the Packers, but then you get Detroit and Chicago after that too. So that's 3 of the next 4 games after the Seattle game are winnable games if you're a Vikings fan.
Okay.
And if you get those division wins, you're right back in this thing too.
Yes, and that's what's important. All right. Deej, you want to do your trivia question on this side of the break or on the other side of the break?
I will do it right now, just to give some people time to think about it. I'm going to put it up on the screen as well. The Durham Remodeling and Repair trivia question of the week. Kyle Rudolph needs how many touchdowns to become 3rd all-time in Vikings history in receiving touchdowns?
For tight ends or overall?
Overall.
It's 84. The answer is Randy Moss. It's a Vikings question. It's Randy Moss. So he needs 84.
How many more receiving touchdowns does he need to become 3rd all-time in Vikings history? First correct comment wins.
It's Randy Moss. The answer is Randy Moss.
Yes.
It's not a person.
No, it's Randy Moss.
It's Randy
the answer is Randy Moss.
All right. With that, we are going to go to commercial. They are recorded commercials. I've gotten a text message saying my friend's daughter Raina wants to know why Uncle Doug's mouse is not moving while his sound is going. So
Doug spent a lot of money on those ventriloquism classes, and he's going to use them.
Darn straight. All right, so we'll fire up a commercial. Actually, it is a Durham Remodeling commercial that is on the slate. So look at that.
It's like we planned that.
Almost, but not really, ever.
Durham Remodeling has been serving the Quad Cities area since 1973. With nearly 50 years of excellence on their track record, you'll see why it's so easy to trust their experts when it comes to all your home improvement projects. Durham Remodeling's work is 100% guaranteed, so you can rest assured that you're getting the best service around. Call 309-786-6715 for all of your roofing, siding, flooring, windows, and painting needs. That's Durham Remodeling, 309-786-6715.
Tick tock, tick tock.
Right. The last one was like extra hard, though. I love it.
Yes. All right. So inactives. Let's see who we got out there today. Jordan Thomas and Brett Hundley and Eno Benjamin for the Arizona Cardinals. As we discussed, Julio is also down this week along with Quadre Allison. Baltimore is Justice Hill is out. No Trace McSorley, no Chris Moore. Carolina on the offensive side for skilled players is just P.J. Walker. For the Bengals, we are looking at no John Ross again this week. Or wow. Travion Williams. Okay. For the Texans, no Jordan Akins, no Kiki Kuti, no Buddy Howell. For the Jags.
Who was that last name you said?
Buddy Howell.
Okay.
Why? What'd you think I said?
Nothing. You kind of just blew out.
Ooh, ooh, I look just like Buddy Howell.
What is that?
I don't know.
Wow.
Dated reference that only Doug gets.
Yeah, I get it. Children. I work with children. DJ. All right. For the Jags, no Jake Luton on the offensive side. No D.D. Westbrook either for the Jags. They are also missing Josh Allen and Miles Jack, two of their big defensive stars over there.
Josh Allen, but not that Josh Allen.
Josh Allen, not that Josh Allen. Kansas City, no Ricky Seals-Jones, no DeAndre Washington. And strange note on this one, they said this Patty Mahomes dude was cut because he's just terrible. So take him out of your lineups.
Lies, all lies.
The first couple were legit. For the Rams, no Raymond Calais, no Bryson Hopkins, no Tristan Jackson.
Bryson Hopkins, son of Brad Hopkins.
You said that last week.
I'm going to say it every week.
Okay.
Keep it going, DJ.
All right.
I believe in you.
For the Raiders, no Brian Edwards in terms of offensive skill positions. So when they beat the Chiefs today, DJ doesn't have any excuses.
Oh, I can come up with one.
I know. For the Jets, no Sam Darnold, no Ty Johnson, no James Morgan, no Rashad Perryman. So here's my question. How is Sam Darnold healthy enough to finish that game, but not healthy enough the next week?
Great question.
Because they didn't want Joe Flacco to play anymore and hurt our eyes.
He's going to play today and hurt our eyes. Not that
Yeah, but they'd rather
the night game.
They want you to know what you're getting into when you're watching that game. So having Darnold down like to start the game, you kind of know what you're getting into. That way, if you don't have to worry about, thank you, DJ. I just saw your comment in the chat. And that way you don't have to worry about having a major audience have to watch Joe Flacco, and then people pretend that Joe Flacco is good again.
Tweet from Matthew Berry via Adam Schefter on Fantasy Football Now. From what I am told, as of right now, the league is optimistic that the Buffalo-Tennessee game will be played.
Well, and since it's coming through two different guys like that, it's probably coming straight from the league. So, how often have we seen things change here?
Right.
I mean, going into today, we thought that the Broncos and Pats game was happening. So,
yes, and then DJ woke me up this morning with that text message.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, if I'm awake, everybody from now on, if I'm awake, everybody should be awake.
No, it was my fault. I didn't have the ringer turned off on my phone. I immediately did so. All right, for Philly, no tight end Hakeem Butler, no Jason Huntley, no Deshaun Jackson, no Alshon Jeffrey, and no.
I am shocked. Alshon Jeffrey is injured. No, I cannot believe that this has happened.
It's so crazy. 2020 is so nuts.
I know.
For the Steelers, no Josh Dobbs, no Zach Gentry, no fullback Derek Watt. So Derek Watt was only active last week so that he could be in the Watt Bowl.
What are you talking about?
Watt. And for Washington, no Dwayne Haskins. I've seen on Twitter that he's not even in the building, won't even show up. Matthew Berry tried to defend that, saying he had a cold. I said, live, pants on fire.
If you're sick, do not come to work.
He's not sick. He's pouting.
If you're sick, do not come to work.
I agree with that statement. He's not sick.
I don't know what is going on there. It's a whole bad look. The whole organization looks bad because of this. You could have just demoted him to QB2, and you wouldn't have had to deal with any of this. I know everybody really wants to give Ron Rivera a lot of credit because he's going through a lot right now, and that's true. He came out on fire. They win their first game in a shocker, but this thing is a mess. It's already a mess. And he's made it worse by doing something like this already.
So that does make Alex Smith the backup quarterback today. So, odds that we see him before the end of the season.
I want to see him today.
He'll be in there in some sort of mop up role. I think it'll be similar to the way the Vikings rolled out Teddy Bridgewater. You get him on the field for that big applause moment, and people are really happy to have that moment. And then maybe next year he'll be a contributor in some way. I don't know that he'll be a guy that really matters for this team this season. I think the fact that he's able to just get back out there and be this close to competitive is something that's going to be something that we remember. I think a large part of guys getting back to that level after such a traumatic injury is they need something like this where they have a potential shot to get back onto the field. That's something that really keeps guys motivated to make that recovery as best they can. And it's going to be something that we remember for a long time, because that injury was maybe one of the worst we've seen in league history.
Yeah, I'm not old enough to remember Theismann's injury, but
we've all seen it though.
Yes, yeah, that's up there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that's all the inactives there. Not too many surprises this week.
We kind of foresaw the
for fantasy.
Okay, we all kind of knew that Julio may be inactive. Chris, do you own Julio anywhere?
No, I don't own Julio anywhere. I have Russell Gage, so that makes him a big bump. I think he's always really good as the number 2 wide receiver. During the game last week, where Julio and Ridley both were active, we saw Gage really take a hit in targets. Mm-hmm. So they've kind of been alternating. Julio's been down a lot. So to have him down again, I think Gage is going to see another big game.
I am actually in one league where I have Henry and Singletary. My insurance play is, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, is Olamide Zacchaeus, who last week caught 8 balls for 86 yards. So, I mean, if he can figure out a way to get 16 again this week, that'd be kind of swell.
Mm-hmm.
Won't happen.
Doug, you have Julio anywhere?
I do not have Julio. I do have Ridley in the staff league, actually.
I'm sure he won't get shot out again.
So I'll happily take that. All right. So we'll take a plug right now for questions. You can drop them in the comments here live on the stream. We will happily take them there. You can tweet them to us. You can send them in via Facebook. If you want to email them to us, that would be great. Any of those options are wonderful. DJ, what are you doing? Are you doing your homework?
No, I'm getting Julio out of my lineup.
Oh, okay. See,
that's why he asked us if we had Julio in our lineup, so we could all be on our phones at the same time. Doug.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's go ahead. Doug already plugged it, but let's plug Nate's GoFundMe page. We're actually going to have a quote unquote promotion today. We had been advertising that for every $5 you donate to Nate's GoFundMe, you will get 1 entry into a Wednesday raffle, which is a piece of autographed memorabilia within reason from your favorite team or a team of your choosing. But today, for every $5 you donate to his GoFundMe, you'll get 1 entry to that raffle. But for every $25 you donate, you'll get 1 entry into the end of the season raffle. So if you donate $50, you get 10 to the Wednesday raffle and 2 to the end of season raffle. So please go donate to Nate. He is over his $5,000 goal. But as we all know, hospital bills cost a lot of money. And so that $5,000 probably won't even begin to touch the surface of everything he's going to get in the mail here soon.
We'd be positive about that. But yeah, no, and he is doing well, right, Deej?
He is doing well. We kind of, based on the text messages we were getting from his girlfriend earlier in the week, we didn't even know if he was going to be able to be logged on to Facebook and Twitter this week because, he can only see out of one eye right now because of he's got a shield over his eye, just because they don't want it to sustain any more damage or get filled up with blood. So I'm glad to see that he's back in and active on social media. But please, he's a great guy. So if you can spare the extra change, send it his way.
So, and where is the link, DJ? Is it on Facebook? Is it on Twitter? Is it on all of them?
The link is on our Facebook and our Twitter pages.
Okay. And it's on the site as well. It's part of the nav bar at the top of the site.
What Doug said. So you can find it almost anywhere.
Yep. All right. So that will take us to the end of this segment. I need to bring back up the commercial so we can play our last one. And then we will, on the other side of this, I don't even know what time it is. Okay. Hey, on the other side. Timing. It's the fun time. We will take your questions. We will do our rapid fires and all that kind of fun stuff. So get those questions in, and then we will be ready to go.
Rock River Fitness, located at 3416 Black Hawk Road in Rock Island, offers a wide variety of classes starting as low as $7 per class, just $10 for specialty classes. The classes that include different yoga, Zumba, cardio, fusion, strength training. Rock River Fitness has a little something for everyone and in a crazily affordable way. Find them on Facebook, the MindBody app, or visit their website, rockriverfitness.com, and start planning your next fitness class. Rock River Fitness, where fitness is fun.
That click at the end is the one that does it for me.
Yeah.
Mostly because I'm bad at my job as the advertising coordinator, but we do also have a few more sponsors that we don't yet have commercials written for. Well, we have a commercial written for Yard Barbers. I just need to put it in our stream. We're sponsored by Yard Barbers LLC. Find them on Facebook. So if you have some last minute landscaping, I believe they're doing some winter work as well. The Big Cheese, who just signed on last week, they're the sponsor of Short Yardage, and Yabba Dabba's House of Glass. We don't have a commercial written for them yet, but we're getting there. We're getting there.
Yes, and all the links to all of at least their Facebook pages are linked off on the site underneath the sponsors link as well. So make sure that you go give those folks a like on Facebook and generously give them your dollars when you are in the market for their wares. All right, so let's get into it. We got questions. We got rapid fires. The questions. Oh, hey, look at all these that we got in here. All right, first up, Cousin Bo wants to know, non-PPR, he needs a flex between Antonio Gibson, Josh Kelly, or Jerick McKinnon.
I think Antonio Gibson is the easy one there.
Yeah,
I agree. Antonio Gibson.
All right, which means break in the first quarter.
Funny story is I have Gibson and Kelly ranked back to back. Of course I do.
Yes. We need to talk more about your ranks. You do them every week, and then we never talk about them.
Why do you like Kelly, DJ? I haven't seen enough there to really get on board with that.
He was taking about 50% of the snaps with Austin Eckler healthy, and he was decently productive. So I think with Eckler out and him getting the lion's share of touches over Justin Jackson, it's a volume-based type of deal.
I think Justin Jackson, just from watching him, that's a guy who is not good. So I think that's one reason to really like Kelly, is because he's going to have those opportunities, and he's going to have opportunities to take over that role entirely too.
Yeah. Justin Jackson is Josh Kelly is my number 18 running back this week. Justin Jackson, number 30.
Okay. Cousin Bo also wants to know, Will Fuller or Deontay Johnson?
Deontay Johnson, who's my number 26 wide receiver for the week.
Yeah, I like Deontay Johnson a lot. I know that Houston is in a new system, and I think it's going to be very unpredictable as to who's going to benefit from that. I want to see a little bit more before I go with anybody from Houston at this point.
Yeah, Romeo Crennel is not going to be a guy who's going to support multiple wide receivers, and I don't like Fuller this week.
Romeo Crennel's not good.
Yeah, I agree.
Romeo Crennel, the guy who didn't know why Jamal Charles wasn't getting any touches.
All righty. Jordan Rangel wants to know. He's got ourselves a whole list of stuff here. All right. Brandon Cooks or Jonnu Smith at the flex. I think at this point you got to go Cooks, right? Just because we don't know Smith.
I would say Cooks, yes.
Cooks because he's alive, but I would look at the waiver wire because Cooks is dead to me now after last week.
All right. Then he also wants us to pick one running back and two flex of James Robinson, Todd Gurley, Devontae Parker, and Debo.
Probably Robinson and take a shot with Debo.
Okay, and two flex though, so you need to pick a third guy.
Gurley, he could fall into the end zone.
I think Gurley is getting a lot more looks end zone wise. I think that's a really good play. Robinson, of course. The rest of them, can you run them down real quick again, Doug?
Robinson, Gurley, Devontae Parker, or Debo?
Debo. I'm going to go exactly like DJ, which is terrifying.
Yeah, that is scary, especially since I would probably tend to agree with that as well.
I don't like Parker, and I think if he was a better player, we would have known it by now.
Agreed.
Yeah. All right. Jimmy G or Kirk?
Jimmy G. Jimmy G is my QB 15. Kirk is my QB 22.
Jimmy Graham is a quarterback now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would trust Jimmy over Kirk because you never know what you're going to get with Kirk. That team could be playing from behind, and I think positive game script for San Francisco is they're going to be ahead, so he might pass less. But at the same time, with the Vikings, they're going to be behind. He might be throwing interceptions. If you're Kirk Cousins, this is not something that you're going to want to have on your fantasy team.
All right, pick three of these. Technically, you only need to pick two because everybody's going to take the first one. So, Nuke, Ridley, Woods, OBJ, Boyd, Johnson, Deontay Johnson, Darius Slayton.
Hopkins, who's my wide receiver 1, Ridley, who's my wide receiver 8, and OBJ, who's my wide receiver 16.
I think you have to go with OBJ after what he did last week. Hopkins is a given because he's so talented. Run down the rest of them real quick again, Doug.
Ridley, Boyd, Deontay Johnson, Darius Slayton.
I like what Boyd's doing. I'm going to go with Boyd just to be different.
I will take Nuke, Ridley, and Bobby Trees. All right. Chase Edmonds or Darrell Henderson?
Henderson as my RB27 over Edmonds, who's my RB37.
I like Edmonds.
I'll take you Edmonds roll too. Justin Jackson or Darrell Henderson?
Henderson again. Jackson's my RB30.
I just don't think Jackson's any good. Just watching that game last week, there was not a whole lot that he does well.
Jordan tricked us on this next one. He tricked us.
No, he tricked you. So, we can't get Linda on the horn. Actually, we could probably text her. DJ, text her.
All right. Well, Jordan, we'll get back to you on this next question. We're going to text Linda.
Oh, it's a kicker question?
It's a kicker question. Yeah. Matty Ice or Big Ben? Matty Ice all day.
Okay, yeah, I would take Matt Ryan because that team's behind all the time and they're throwing a lot.
Matt Ryan as my QB7 over Big Ben, who's my QB10.
DJ Baby Chark or Jamison Crowder?
Chark.
Yeah, Chark. With too many changes at quarterback in New York, I wouldn't trust Joe Flacco.
Same. All right, Jordan's also got a trade question for us. So, Deej, this is your expertise. He was offered Mostert for Fournette and Boyd. His current running backs are Mixon, Henderson, Fournette, Edmonds, and CMC. His wide receivers are Nuke, Woods, Ridley, OBJ, Boyd, Judy, and Deontay Johnson.
I'm not a huge fan of Mostert based on the fact that the Niners like to use a lot of backs. So I don't know that, especially with having Mixon and CMC, that I'm looking to acquire another running back, especially giving up two players.
Yeah, I like Tyler Boyd a lot. I'm surprised that that would be just like a sweetener type of deal. Tyler Boyd has really shown up well this week, or at least in this season. And I think he kind of has the trust of Burrow already. So, I mean, that's a good tandem to have going for you. Tyler Boyd has 35 targets already this year. That's good for 12th in the league with 2 touchdowns. So, I mean, that's elite. That's elite targets.
Yeah, I think I would decline that deal.
And we have an answer from Linda, our resident kicker expert. She would go with Zane Gonzalez because Koo is coming off of a groin injury.
Are you gonna say who the other person is?
Oh,
Yeah.
I said Zane Gonzalez over Young Ho Koo.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, any other questions? Did we get any in the chat while I was looking at
I
that?
did not see any. People didn't want our lukewarm takes today.
No, who's the best team in the NFL right now?
Randy Moss.
Thank you, DJ.
Randy Moss is the correct answer.
DJ isn't like bitter about me ruining his trivia question at all.
The Chiefs, best team in the NFL.
Okay.
Sure.
Chiefs.
All right. So, rapid fires. First one up. My wife wants to know why I'm Dougie Fresh because it's better than Dougie Stale. All right.
Hey, if anybody in the comments wants to get involved on these rapid fires, just shoot your comment down here and we'll add it. You might be a little late because we have a little bit of delay. But
I'll take the Bills as the best team in the NFL.
Ooh.
Wait till they lose to the Titans and then the Chiefs, and then let me know.
Okay.
All right. So, first up, top scoring week 5 quarterback.
Patty Mahomes.
No.
Yeah, I would want to look at matchup a little bit because I've been feeling Josh Allen lately, but I think you got to go with Mahomes because, hey, you never know if that game's going to get played.
I am going to go with Kyler Murray. Does Zeke Elliott get his first 100-yard game of the season? No.
Yeah.
Total yards, he'll be over 100, maybe not over 100 rushing yards.
Okay. Does Dalvin Cook score for the fifth straight game?
I'm going to say no.
Yeah.
Who are they playing? Minnesota?
Seattle.
Seattle.
No, then no. All right. First player to scoring in Jacksonville, Houston. How early was it when you wrote this?
Pretty early.
Okay.
I'll go James Robinson.
DJ,
you're stealing everybody's answers.
Sorry.
I'll go with Chark.
Randy Moss.
Randy Moss.
Red Bell over under 39.5 rushing yards. Under.
Over.
What was it?
Lev Bell over under 39.
Okay. 39 what?
39.5. 39.5.
Ugh. Yeah, under.
All right. More points, Chris Carson or Dalvin Cook?
Dalvin Cook just for help.
Carson, because I said Cook wasn't going to score.
I hate agreeing with DJ, but yeah, that's what we're going to do. Top scoring week 5 wide receiver.
Hopkins.
Doug, you got any feel for this one?
Debo.
I'm going to go with Keenan Allen.
Okay. All right. Carson Wentz over under 1.5 passing touchdowns.
Under,
and he'll run for 1 or do something to get you some fantasy points. But yeah, this offense is bad.
I will go 2, but I say he throws a pick 6 in there as well. Wheel of Rams pass catchers. More TDs. Cup, Woods, Higbee, Everett.
Cup.
I feel like Cup was last week, so in the wheel, it has to be Woods this week.
Yeah, I was going to say Bobby Trees. I just like saying Bobby Trees. More catches. TE2 Travis Kelce or Darren Waller?
I'm going to say Kelsey scores more points, but Waller has more catches.
I think Waller for catches, yeah.
Agreed. All right, George Kittle, TE1, over under 70.5 yards.
He's coming back. I would take the under on that. And they're probably going to try and protect him a little bit and keep those hits off of him.
Under.
Yeah, if I'm going to say Debo has a big day, I'm going to have to go under on that one. All right. Well, Kareem Hunt finished as a top 5 running back in week 5.
No.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm with Chris on this one. Absolutely.
I have him just outside in my rankings, just outside the top 5.
As in what?
I think he's number 8.
That's not just outside.
It is just outside.
Just outside is 6 or 7. 8 is not just outside.
No, you're going to be just outside. You're just going to be just outside of the show. I'm going to kick you out.
Good. That way I can sleep in on Sundays. More rushing touchdowns, Todd Gurley or Mike Davis?
Gurley.
Gurley. Mike Davis is the worst. I don't care what he did last week. He's the worst.
I'd still say he's going to score more this week. At least more touchdowns. Top scoring wide receiver in Dallas Giants.
Doug, you always get this one right. We'll go Cooper.
CD.
Gallup.
I was really hoping you would say like Sterling Shepard.
No. All right. Lamar Jackson over under 57.5 rushing yards.
I was almost right last week, guys, just because Lamar ran for the number exactly in the first half. But then they stopped having him run the ball because they're like, what's the point of doing this?
I'll say over.
I'll go under again.
I'm going to take whatever Chris says because Chris has got a good feel for Lamar Jackson. All right. Top scoring week 5 running back.
Ooh. You got to feel it all. DJ. I was going to say the exact same thing.
All right. I'll pivot to Zeke.
Yeah, that's not a bad one either. Yeah, I think it's got to be Kumara.
See, that's where I was going to go.
Maybe Aaron Jones.
You know what? Screw it. Give me my boy, James Conner.
Aaron
You
Jones
said his name. He's probably injured now, Doug.
Yeah. He's going to get hurt by carrying the weight of my expectations. Okay, 17. Are the Browns good? No.
I thought I took that one out of there. No.
Okay, why not? It's the NFL. You don't have to be good. You just have to beat the bad teams.
Yeah, that's fairly accurate. All right, and last one. Do the Heat win Game 7, or does LeBron
get force Game 7? Did I say win? Do they force Game 7?
Yeah, it says win.
I did say win. Do they force Game 7?
I say the Heat win Game 7. I'm taking the Heat all the way. Jimmy G stands for gets buckets.
Dude, he was a freaking dog. Like that game 5 was exciting.
Yeah.
But Lakers win tonight.
Yeah, I think they're a little gassed after what happened. And you have to win the Shane Duncan makes every shot game. If
Duncan
you're the
Robinson.
Heat, whatever. Duncan Robinson, the same guy.
Yeah, but can I get coffee and donuts at Duncan Robinson?
Yeah, you should.
Okay, great.
It'll only get you 13 points, but everybody will talk about how great it is.
Hey, that's all that matters. Hey, Paxson got a GM job for like a decade based upon one shot. So
yeah, well, Danny Green not getting another GM job, that's for sure.
Yeah. All righty. So that will do it for this week, which actually wasn't as much chaos as it normally is. That wasn't so.
Our technology worked.
I know, isn't that crazy?
Thanks to the folks at StreamYard and our own Linda Godry who put us onto it. Like,
wait, I have a legit question. Is she Linda Godry or Godfrey?
I don't know. I assume only Gilbert Godfrey's last name is Godfrey. So,
wow, it's a hot take, DJ.
All right, so we will get the answer to that question, that burning question, for you guys next week. So for that, he is DJ, he is Chris, I am Doug. We will see y'all next week.
Bye, guys.
Actually, we'll see you Wednesday.
Yeah, we'll see you on Wednesday.